morning's study. And we're going to be looking in a few minutes at Exodus chapter 3, down 4, Genesis, Exodus. Just a couple verses to highlight there. That's way back. So I'm beginning with the incident I was mentioning to the Bible study here this last week. Sherry and I had an appointment downtown, and we left a few minutes early because you know how parking is downtown. Have you ever tried to park downtown? Anybody? That's, you know, that'll build your faith. You have to go with your faith up to find parking downtown. So we left a few minutes early so that we could find some parking. And so we got down there, and there's no parking on either side. So what do? Drive around? Drove around this way. Still no parking. Drive around again. I was doing okay the first couple rounds. And then after, driving around some more. Appointment's almost time for the appointment. Sherry's so good, she says, oh, we got time. And so we drove around a couple more times. And, you know, I'm trying, okay, I'm favored, Lord, I'm favored with the parking spot. I'm blessed. Your favor surrounds me like a shield. And I'm going through all my confessions and trying to hang on to my faith. And then so finally I drove around again. So Sherry says, let me off. So she went to the appointment, and I drove around, you know, a few more times with my, you know, I'm trying to keep my faith up here, you know. God, I'm favored. Why is this happening to me? You know, how deeply spiritual we are in those times. And so eventually I was driving around, I was on the City Hall side, and a spot opened up on the, let's say, the Parsons Clinic side. So I looked behind, I had to cut through across 3 lanes to get that spot. Was there enough time? Ooh, it was close. So I stepped on it, zoomed over, and I got in line and got that spot. So I got the spot, got out to look and check the meter, and there was 1 hour and 50 minutes on the meter. So I'm blessed. And so the Lord was kind to speak to me. And when there was a lesson in there, you know, it was no accident that had happened. Even though I'm favored and I'm blessed, you're blessed with all spiritual blessings. There's a lesson in it. And it was like the Lord was speaking to my spirit and said, you know, I did that on purpose. I wanted to teach you a lesson. I wanted to teach you to trust me. Even in those places when you feel like you're going around in a circle in your life, you're going around in a circle, going around a circle. It seems like nothing is happening. You can't see anything else but that circle. And the only thing you can see is the things that aren't happening. And the Lord is saying, my timing is perfect. I timed it perfectly so that I can get you a spot where you didn't even have to pay. All you had to do was trust me. That I had things under control. And then I knew that I saw. And yes, you're still favored. But sometimes His favor is teaching us to trust Him. There's a reason why He wants us to trust Him. These levels. We're going to talk about that often. He wants us to trust Him in those times because He wants to promote us to new levels. That's a way down later in the message, but I just had to get it out. So anybody feel like that? You go around circles in your life, and that's all you can see. It feels like nothing's going on. You're not getting any closer to where you think you should be. Yeah, if we're honest, we all feel like that. But guess what? God's still there. We're still favored. We're still blessed. That teaches us that God is still in our life, and He's still trying to love us and teach us that one thing. that we can trust Him, because when it's time, you'll get that parking spot. And He will work those things out in our life. But we have to trust Him. So when you're in your sermon notes there at the top, the point to ponder is this: God's purposeful pattern is to teach us to trust. It is a purposeful pattern, but we see through the entire Scripture. It's not just here in our lives today. But if you look and read through Scripture, you will see virtually every Bible character went through this very thing. There was a testing in their life. And that testing was to teach them about who God was, His nature, His character, that He is trustworthy no matter how it looks. And for example, out of all the stories that we could talk about, we're going to talk about Moses in Exodus chapter 3 and chapter 4. I encourage you to take this home and study those chapters out. I'm just going to mention a few verses, but it's an amazing thing. We kind of know the story where Moses was in the desert 40 years. He saw on the mountain a burning bush. He went up to the mountain, and God was calling Moses for a very special calling. And Moses had a conversation with the Lord in this burning bush. And Moses was, again, just like us, you know, a man of faith. And in some of the conversation in chapter 3, in verse 11, it says, "And Moses said unto God, Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh?" So Moses was intimidated. Moses was afraid. Isn't that a statement of fear? That was a statement of fear. In chapter 4 and verse 1, Moses makes another statement in this conversation. Because God says, you know what, I want you to do this. Take your staff. And so he's trying to instruct Moses on his calling to go there. And then Moses says in verse 1, and Moses answered and said, but, we ever say that to God? But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice. He was saying, but God, they won't believe me that I talk to you. And God, they won't listen to me. Is that another trust statement? Is that another faith statement? No, it's not. Every person in the Scripture went through a trust test like this. Because God was doing amazing and marvelous things. God was preparing them for promotion. Did Moses get promoted? If Moses would walk in trust, if he would walk in faith, even when it seems hard, even seems like when you're going around in circles and things are pointless, things aren't coming together, guess what? It's a trust test. God set you up for promotion. Isn't that exciting? It is. And so there's a couple lessons we want to look. In your notes there, looking at Exodus 3 and 4, I looked at the condition of Moses' heart. Who am I? That I should go to Pharaoh. They will not believe me, hearken unto me. You can put in there statements of fear, statement of intimidation. God's response was this in verse 2, chapter 4. God says, and the Lord said unto him, what is that in thy hand? And he said, a rod. Really, it was a stick. Moses says, I got a stick in my hand. And then God said to Moses, throw that stick down on the ground. It became a serpent. You know what God did with that stick? God parted the Red Sea with that stick. When he touched a rock with that stick, water came out of the rock. God used